So, I'm Sonali's book club today. We've done a lot of conversations. We've met up with a lot of authors. Today is special because I'm going to be talking to someone who is a friend, and it's taken me a while, taken us a while to get there where the relationship is concerned. But a because I always take time where friendships are concerned, and once they're formed, they're formed. Today, I'm talking to my friend and someone whom I admire a lot uh, because I think she is someone who is an example for women all over the world, especially for us Indian women, South Asian women, for what she has achieved and as she says, what she is yet to achieve. So today we have on book club Priyanka Chopra Jonas, who has come out with her book called Unfinished. So apt, I would say, Priyanka, Unfinished. It is just so you, because one cannot imagine you with a full stop. Priyanka Chopra always comes for me with a comma, with something that will continue. So tell me, what made you write a book?
Yeah, it's a crazy thought, na, Sons. First of all, thanks, babe, for doing this. Thanks for talking to me.
Yeah, I love talking to you, and this is a
And
great.
thanks
I
for
got
reading the
you,
book.
and you have no, to find Priyanka, she's all over the world. To just catch her, get her to talk to you. Oh my God, do you think I'm going to let go of that opportunity? No way.
Well, thank you anyway. You're so gracious. I always was fascinated with writing. Sonali, I've written op-eds, I've written prose, I've written poetry when I was in school. I just find the idea of writing, very close to God. I feel like it's godliness. It comes hawa se nikal ke aata hai, like whether you write music, whether you write words. Hence, I've been an avid reader as well. So I was just scared of sort of functional, like structured writing, कि book ho gayi, novel ho gaya, screenplay ho gaya. I was sort of scared of that.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but you've done columns. You've written for New York Times. You've
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying.
written for
Columns
Hindustan
I've
Times
written.
here.
Wait,
Yeah.
to columns I've written, op-eds I've written, but it's never been structured like a novel or a book or a screenplay, कि इस तरह लिखी जाती hai, like that. But I was reaching 20 years in the entertainment business in 2020. So I said, what better way to embrace your fears than just go ahead and do the deep dive? And I decided I'll write a memoir because, I've lived my life, so it'll be easy. So, but it wasn't. It was the hardest thing to do. I wish I'd chosen a fictional story instead.
So this is a question I was going to ask you, but now that you've brought it up, let me dive right into it because it is a book club, and we would like to know that yes, you've written a book. We are all looking forward to it. I mean, everybody is. I've read it. I've got the this thing. But after this, are you going to write a fictional story?
I might. I mean, I really do want to continue writing. I don't know what it will be. I'm curious about maybe writing a screenplay. I don't know. But I don't know. It has to evolve. I'm very new in this. This is, my attempt at doing it for the first time. It's another creative direction that I have sort of taken. And I hope that it doesn't just stop with one book. I don't think so.
I've read the book, PC, and I really hope it doesn't stop with one book because
Yay.
I couldn't put it down, and it was touching, it was emotional. And when you read memoirs or when you read biographies, so to say, you're reading about people who have achieved something, and when you read their books, you're looking at maybe gaining something from it. That's the reason why you read the biography. And there's so much that I took away from this book. I want to start with that. The first of all, what I took away from it was your childhood. I've known you, and I know you've been to boarding school, and you've studied in America, and those, the boxes, it because
Yeah.
one has known you. But the childhood is so interesting. And in the beginning, as I started reading and I was looking at the chapters, I have to be very honest. I was thinking, so many chapters of childhood. What is happening here? I mean, what is this childhood? But I must say that as I read it and I read the whole book, how it connects and how much of your childhood has shaped you, it's amazing. Which part of this, you went to a boarding school, you went to another continent to study, which part of this institution, educational institution, has stayed with you more?
I think the independence that I gained from both of them, instead of the two different cultures. I'm really a true mixture of both, honestly, because I spent such a large part of my childhood in India and traveling all over India, seeing all kinds of India, and then moving to America at 12, and then seeing all kinds of America, going to 4 schools. So by the time I was 18 or 17, I'd kind of been exposed to a massive, large part of the world. And it just made me so independent because I dealt with going to boarding school in Lucknow and going to America without my parents. You know,
Yeah.
I I've had an independent spirit. I've been taught to have confidence since I was a child. I was never treated like a child. Like my parents, even dinner table conversations at 5 years old, my opinion would be asked. Ki, Acha, what do you think about this? Instead of, laughing at whatever or making me feel shame or feeling silly. And I think that's what I take away the most is having a self, confidence. I can walk into a room and talk to anybody because I have a sense of self. And that came from those experiences, which my parents allowed me to have.
Yes, it's amazing. One knows your confidence, PC. You know, the confidence that you have is I can say sometimes not only just awe-inspiring, but sometimes it's also a bit, I can be envious of it. It's amazing to see the confidence that you have and the way you handle situations and the strength that is there in you. But that's the strength that one has seen always. And I do want to come to that part of it. But while we are on your childhood, as a parent, there's so much for me to read in this book and to gain from it, because the upbringing that you've had says so much about what kind of education is it just the school, or is it the life experience? And as you connect and as you read the book, you can see that what you went through in your childhood and what the experience that you had, how it shaped you and how you dealt with the problems that came ahead in your life with so much more confidence. And a lot of us as parents are so bothered about what the grades are and what is the, which school they are in and what are the peer group and etc. And a lot of times we forget that it's life lessons that are more important than anything else from education. And as a parent, I took that away. And I must say, immense amount of respect to your parents, both to your father and to Madhu auntie. I mean, amazing that they could do that. And I have to add that as a girl, this is a book I would say mothers with daughters must read, because the kind of confidence and what all you were allowed to do when you write the book, it's amazing that, there's so many times when you don't even realize you've actually been contained. And I call that, as women, we are told, God, itna bahar mat jao, just calm down, ghar pe baitho,
The glass
which is
ceiling
not
that
enough
has
time.
been
Exactly,
made
exactly.
for us.
Yes. When did you realize that you were different in bed? This sort of, where as a woman it was concerned, the upbringing that you had got was different.
I I've always felt different. I was never like the others in a room, When I was in India, I was the backbencher. I never was the one who was like, "Ma'am, mujhe answer malum hai." Never. But when I went to America, I wanted to prove to everyone that I was smart. So my hand would go up and all the other kids would laugh at me. Ki, "Acha, tum answer kyun bata rahi ho?" The cool kids all never had answers, right? So I always somehow took the other direction in a room. Even when I went for Miss India and Miss World, I had no experience. Everybody else were models and I didn't know anything. I went from literally army school to, so I've always sort of just been thrown into the deep end, and I learned how to swim very early. Like, I think boarding school, I would definitely give credit to when I went to boarding school. I had such a sense of independence that I took away from that, that if I could handle those things alone and by myself, I'm grateful I didn't come out of it hurt and traumatized and, angry at the world, because when I came back home, I was surrounded by so much love by my parents. And I was never, I was always raised with love. I was always wanted. I was always made to feel cherished. And I really think that that made me okay with being different, not early on in the beginning, of course, but as I grew as a teenager, as I started, figuring out what my mind is, what my desires are, I was okay with that. I didn't need validation very much from many things. If I failed, I was like, Acha, okay, I failed. I mean, of course, it'll hurt, it'll feel bad, I'll be sad about it, but I could pick up and move on. Yeah, I move on very easily.
So I wouldn't say that you move on very easily, and that's something that the book has shown us. That
Right.
that's something that you kind of it's a glib thing that you say, and that I'm going to take the advantage here of knowing you so well, and I'm going to say that sorry, that's not true. That's
But
something
when I do,
I
then I do.
say. But she's extremely sensitive, extremely emotional, and she does hold on, and she does it's deep inside, and she kills herself with the trauma that is deep inside. She buries it, and that I do want to get to. But before that, I have to say that this is one book I would want to gift to my sister who has a daughter, and to some other friends of mine who have daughters. This is definitely my gifting book for, not just parents, but definitely ones with daughters, because that childhood is something that there's so much that we can learn from. What are the wings that you can give your daughters is something that this childhood shows. PC, we've always seen you as the strong person. You yourself project that in a very, very strong way. This is a book where you've become very vulnerable in the book. And there's a side to you which is so vulnerable. And having known you, I've not been your best friend, but I've known you. And one has always known you as the strong person. And I got really emotional when I read that and I saw what you've been through, especially after you lost your father. Of course, it is hard to lose your parent, and especially a parent who has been a sort of your best friend and your champion, I would say, because yes, your mom has been, but your father was truly your champion too. And the way you dealt with what you were going through mentally and how that journey was an eye opener for me, because that was one side I didn't know what you had gone through. And I'm sorry, as a friend, I did not know that you were going through all of this. But when you speak about it, that says a lot about mental health and also what we go through. I would love you to talk a little bit about that, because especially in the times that we are going through right now, there's so many things that we feel, oh, I'm just feeling it. Maybe I'm exaggerating it. Maybe, I'm just being dramatic. But sometimes you're not being dramatic or you're not exaggerating. And sometimes you just need help.
Totally. It was a very, very difficult time for me at that time. Not immediately after dad died, because I just jumped into work. Fourth day later after his chotha, I was back on set for Mary Com. But and that was a deliberate choice. It wasn't because Sanjay sir had said that he'd push the set and whatever. But I was just like, no, I need to go back to work. My work has been my rock my whole life, right? It's the one thing that has stood by me consistently, has been my work. So I depend on it a lot. And you're right, I am someone who's super sensitive, and I bury it down and I use it as sort of rocket fuel to go ahead. And that's what I did for a good 2 years. And then I moved to America for Quantico. And it was that first season when I was in a different country. I didn't have any friends, everything was new. I had the pressure of this show on my shoulders, which I was told I was the first Indian ever in the history of American television to be playing a lead on a network show. And suddenly, like, whoever I was meeting, the pressures were insane. And also, I was at a very emotional time in my life, and I was alone and dealing with it alone. And I just, kind of kept going into that vortex of sadness. And people do. And especially right now, sadness is very seductive. It calls out at you, and
I
it
love
makes
that
you feel
line.
like it's a blanket,
Yeah.
oh, mere paas aao, like.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
it's and you do. And sometimes you need to mourn, and it doesn't have to be a tangible mourning. It doesn't have to be something that you can feel and identify and put a label on. It's just a feeling, and you have to care about yourself enough to allow yourself that. None of us are built tough. We have to find our toughness when we need it the most, and there are times when you don't need to be tough. And I didn't ask for help. Maybe if I had, it would have been a shorter duration. But it was a time of endings for me at that time, and a time of beginnings for me at that time. And I kind of went incubated into myself, and took a really long time to get onto the other side. But what really helped me was, I felt that I was so emotionally vacant, and so emotionally sort of empty, that it started affecting my work. I saw myself not being inspired when I went to work. I saw myself just trying to get through the day. And I said to myself, Ki, I've built this career on my back, my blood, sweat, and tears, and I will lose it if I don't check what my priorities are. And no one has given it to me, no one is going to hold on to it for me.
Yeah.
So I checked myself and I pulled myself out of a very, very dark time. But I started choosing to talk to friends. I started going out, little things.
PC, when you wrote about that period, was it a catharsis?
It was surprising actually because I hadn't thought about it for a very long time. If I wasn't
So
in
that means when you
quarantine,
pen things down, it helps.
oh yeah, oh my gosh, I will recommend, don't write a memoir if you don't want to, but I would recommend everyone just as an exercise writing in a journal about your life, just like introspectively. It's so strange when you come out of it and you read those words on paper, and it just immediately takes you into something that you may need to deal with or maybe haven't even thought about.
But that's what you did. You wrote it
Yeah.
down and you manifested Nick in your life.
I think my mom did that actually.
But so many
But it is
relationships
true.
leading to Nick. What were the lessons that you learned from there?
From the previous ones?
Yes, from relationships, because you'd gone through, it
Um,
was a journey that you had gone through, and that journey took you to Nick.
I think it was not the journey of other people that led me to Nick. I think it was that moment that I spent with myself,
Mm-hmm.
devoid of romantic relationships, just focusing on picking up my own pieces, that led me to finding the person that I wanted to be with. And that led me to, filling up all the gaps in my life because I wasn't looking for it. I was looking internally. I was fixing myself. I was, focusing on what I like to do. And, that rebuild a sense of confidence in myself that I didn't need from anyone else. And I think that's when it sort of happened.
I love what you have, what you've written in there. We'll keep it for the book. And, that's the journey, how you met Nick and everything. Very, very interesting. Um, it was a change that you made. You were at the top of your game in your career. And from India, Priyanka Chopra moves for music to America, which where you start all the way, if I may say so, at the bottom of the rung. And that takes guts. What made you get out of your comfort zone and actually jump into something where you would have to start all over again? Because not like your journey here had been easy.
No,
Always
and you know
different.
it.
Yes, you were always different, and what you would call you were an outsider, and you literally grabbed and carved a niche out for yourself here. So, doing the same thing and actually going through it over there, what made you do that?
I think the fact that I had experience in in working in Hindi movies of wanting to carve a niche for myself, I realized that if you want something, you shouldn't wait for someone to give it to you. If you can
Right.
create your own opportunities, and that's an entrepreneur, like someone who can say, all right, let me read this room. What is my opportunity? And I learned to do that in Hindi movies. Everything that I was when I went to America is because I had such a great foundation with in entertainment with Hindi movies, in grit while I was working in Bollywood. And actually, when the music thing happened, it's very funny. But I was, at a new point in my life as an actress. I was doing Sat Khoon Maaf with Vishal Bhardwaj, and I was like, I'm going to dig deep, and I don't have time for to be disturbed. And I was shooting in Kurg, and Natasha, who was my manager at that time, she called me up and she's like, "This persistent woman has been calling for 2 months. Just talk to her." And I was like, "Nats, I can't. I don't have time right now. I'm, acting kar rahi hu main abhi." And she said, "Just take." She said, "Just take this call." And she said to me, she said, "I really think your career is international." And it sort of made me think about the possibility that it could be. First of all, I hadn't thought about that. And new things always in, entice me and make me excited to see, act, even roles. Like something that'll be difficult is something I find exciting to conquer. If it's easy, then it's no fun, right? So when I met Ange, who's my manager here, she talked about the idea of doing music. She said she'd heard my, songs. I had a really big, record deal with Universal. So I said, "ये किया तो नहीं है कभी मैंने."
Hmm.
But you know what? Throw me into the deep end and I'll try. And that's how it actually started, never realizing. And I went into my music a little bit entitled, I will tell you that. I was like, I'm an actor from the Indian film industry, and I am who I am. And when I started doing the music, I was taught humility in 3 seconds. When you have to go into, when you have to walk into the booth and sing in front of a mic that can hear every breath and every movement and control, I was in 1 second slapped into place. Let's put some more effort and learn. And it was a quick lesson in learning and trying to navigate something new. And it's like a drug, to want to do something for the first time. And
So
you fail sometimes and you don't.
we've seen you do that. Anything that is new, like you said, it's enticing. You've done that. You have a production house. You've come out with the regional movies, and you've given so many new talent a platform. You're an entrepreneur. You've invested. We know all of that. There's lots more about that in the book, and your team is going to kill me if I continue any longer, and I have lots of questions to ask. But for the book club, I have one important question for you. Reading all the screenplays and the stories that you read and writing a book, how different was that?
Extremely different. I mean, they're completely different mediums. It's like television and film. It's sort of the same, but it's extremely different. The writing an episode and writing an entire series, thinking about a series graph, it's sort of and a movie, writing it into 3 acts. What is the first act, last act? It's literally as technically different, I think, writing a book and a screenplay. And to
So
me,
what helped you? How do you understand this difference, and what helped you in this? What was the inspiration for the book?
I think I love reading, and I wanted to write something which was engaging and which would make people laugh and cry. And like me, I've written the book like I speak. The one lesson I have learned is I write in very long sentences. It's like how I think. Whenever I'm talking, I don't put a full stop. I'll always put like a dash or a comma, and I'll go on to something else and come back. So I have like a whole paragraph, which is one sentence. When I was recording my audiobook, I was like, इतनी लंबी लंबी लाइनें क्यों लिखी हैं मैंने? It was
And you
so.
keep going back, and it's beautiful the way you've covered it. So yes, lots. We are not going to share too much about it because I think what people need to do is go out and buy this book and read it. But quickly, PC, what are your 5 favorite books?
I've recently read this amazing book, which I would recommend to you. I don't know if you've read it or not. It's by an author called Ya Gyazi,
Mhm.
and it's called Homegoing.
Okay.
It's amazing. I've been recommending it to everybody. One of my all-time favorite books is Letters from a Father to his Daughter by Jawaharlal Nehru.
Mm.
Is a book that uh, Jawaharlal Nehru wrote when he was in jail for Indira Gandhi when she was a teenager.
Absolutely.
And my parents gave it to me when I was very young. And it's amazing. I recommend it to every parent to give it to every kid because it basically talks about life lessons and the universe and how Earth was made and just like things that you probably talk to your dad about. It's amazing.
Okay.
Okay, I love Black Beauty. It's
Mhm.
my childhood classic favorite book. I am an animal lover and I love Beauty's journey and it's heartbreaking and all the good things. I would recommend The White Tiger. If you've
Mm.
seen the movie, great. If you haven't seen the movie, just read the book. Arvind Adiga creates this enticing, delectable world that jumps out at you from this book. It's phenomenal as a read. And his next book, Amnesty, also is really great. And I would say Untamed. I know a lot of people have read Untamed by Glennon
Love it.
Doyle, but
We did it on the
I
book club.
you did. She just did a chat with me for my book tour as well. Amazing woman, great
Yeah.
perspective. What a great story. Yeah, was that 6? Sorry.
Yeah, that was fine. That was perfect. And thank you so much for it. And PC, I'm looking forward to another book from you. There's so much inside you. You've always been full of stories. And I do hope that there is a fiction book that is sitting there somewhere inside you and it comes out soon because I would look forward to it. Thank you so
I hope
much for
so.
talking to
Thanks,
Sonali's Book
Sons.
Club. And I hope to see you soon. Lots of love
Bye.
always.
Thank you.
Bye.